All right, so we'll start with this. So, in the pandemic, my daughter was working at a gas station along with a candy store that she'd worked for several years and was doing like all management stuff. And she was a hot dog. She was really good at that. And she did enjoy her job. But every time they'd bring the J1s in, they would kill all the other employees' hours, and she was the last one. And then they'd kill her hours to where she was like doing 18, 20 hours a week instead of her normal 40. And that was really sad. And they did this like every year. And so I had convinced her to take on a job at this gas station place and get day shifts so she would be safe, because they were paying really a lot of money. They had a big sign on the front, how much they were paying, we hire you now, da 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 da. And I said, well, it would be okay because there's always a lot of people there. And, the sheriff's hang out there. And as long as you're working day shift, it won't be too bad. Otherwise, it's not a good job. It could be very dangerous. And the place opened 24 hours, And so, anyway, uh, plus I had to drive her back and forth and that. Well, in the pandemic, the corporate I worked for 5 years, it shut down because we weren't allowed to operate. Only certain businesses were allowed to operate. And the, the gas station was allowed to operate all the time. But you had to have a copy of the permit so you could drive on the road, or they would like arrest you or something. And then I was trying to do DoorDash, which was tough too. And you had to have a permit to run DoorDash and be on the road. And so it was really tough. And I'm going to tell you, she was clocking the hours. It was so sad because it got so bad. Like she would be home for like an hour or two, get some sleep, go back to work, and it was just really bad because I had to stay awake to wake her up and all that. And I told her, I said, this is enough. I said, you can't do like this. It's not healthy. And she's like, but I got to pay the bills. I said, look, you don't have to kill yourself over it. Okay, cut back. This is way too extreme. And so anyway, the house was on a limitation because the landlord wanted to sell, kept talking about selling, and she was waiting on the renovations of the property. And it was kind of like we're watching like the countdown, and I paid my rent in advance. I was never late. Was there 2.5 years. um, the sad part about it was, it was a great house with a pool, everything. um, when I rented that unit, I did it as a surprise to her. And uh, because this is one of the most beautiful places in the States that I've always loved and have lived here 2 times in my life. And I wanted her to enjoy it because it was much like California when I grew up. It's fairly safe and a lot of stuff's walkable, and there's jobs and colleges and all kinds of stuff. And so, uh, you know, I couldn't think of anything that was a better gift to put her in a nice place after I'd gone through all my divorce. That was really scary, and we really needed to leave the state because it was so frightening. We could never be in peace. And so, anyway, it was like freedom. It was so nice. Didn't have to worry. And so, um, it was just unfortunate. The pandemic was rough. It was really rough. And so, anyway, she was paying for everything. Okay. I had no work. I didn't believe in the pandemic. I thought it was a bunch of bullcrap. I really thought they were trying to get everybody to stay in their houses because we were going to get bombed by some foreigners or something. I really didn't believe there was such thing as Corona. Okay. I was convinced that they wanted everybody to stay inside because we were going to get bombed. So, anyway, this thing is like going, a few days, and it's going a week, then it's going another week, then it's going another week, and it's like, oh my gosh, when will it end? What is going on? And so uh, it was really incredible. She was the trooper, I got to tell you. I don't know what we'd have done without her because her two jobs, even though they'd cut back at the candy store for operation, her other job was 100%. And so that was nice. And, you know, she was also supposed to do some testing or something. She started there, I believe it was before she was 18. Yeah. And so, anyway, she was kind of working a little part time at first. But anyway, so, uh, I wanted her to get back into college because she was at the University of Mobile for criminal law because she was going to be a lawyer. That's what she decided she'd like to do. So I told her, I said, you'd really make a good lawyer. And she was quite interested in that. And I thought, well, that's really neat. You know, she could do something like that. You know, she's pretty smart. So anyway, this is the kid that is your best friend that you can take anywhere. I've taken her all over the states. We've traveled together, had some fantastic times. Our trip to California to go see my daddy and come back. I mean, we have really had some times. And so anyway, she was getting a little bit difficult the last 2 or 3 months. And I think it was because of the people she worked around, because some of those people were very ghetto. And she would start kind of talking ghetto and cussing a lot. And I said, man, you can't be like this because you can't come around my work like this. You can't be around my friends talking like this. Stop being so ghetto. And it was like she didn't care. When we go up and visit her daddy out of state, we used to go up and take care of him about every other week. And we'd go up there and stay for a couple days and clean the house and, cook for him, do errands, whatever. And he really loved her. That was his youngest kid, and that he didn't want to begin with because I wanted another child. And he was like, I don't want any more kids. I have plenty. I'm done. And I said, well, I want another kid. You want to be with me? Do or don't. Because, there it is. And so I said, look, I'll pay all the medical bills, everything on top of your insurance, because he put me on his insurance when he was with Sears. And I said, I'll pay everything extra, that the medical doesn't cover, and it was like a done deal. So she was kind of basically a business deal. And I told her that several times. And then years later, he's like, that's not true. No, it's absolutely true. His words were 100%. I do not want any more kids. Because he's got 4 or 5 previous. And they were like mostly all grown up. I think Rebecca was the youngest. And they're all out in California. Anyway, so, her dad and I continue to stay best friends. Um, and I never wanted to keep her away from her daddy. I had options to move back home to California and other things, and I didn't want to get quite that far because I want to make sure we were kind of close enough because of his health that kept getting worse, and that she should be seeing her daddy. You know, I didn't want her too far from her daddy, and because she's the only one around. Everybody else in California. You know, and so she's pretty much his livelihood, and they're very much alike. It's real funny. But we had gone up a couple times to visit him, and I told him, I said, I just don't know. She is really hard to handle because, her mouth and stuff. And he said, oh, she's a teenager. And then I was about ready to give her to him, you know, because I couldn't take it. She started getting really off the wall, and it's like, this is not my kid. Because she's always a lady, always really a lot of fun, very business, and everything. And she just got weird. Although a week before she left, she said again, like she said many a time, I will never leave you, mommy. I will always live with you. And I said, well, one day you'll find somebody nice that you would like to be married and have kids and have a life. Your mom is not your only life. You know what I mean? I appreciate it, and you're welcome to stay as long as you want. There is no time limit. You stay as long as you want, but one day you'll find somebody nice, and you'll want to carry on with your own life. And so, you know, she was like, I don't know, 19 or 20 in the pandemic. And so she was busting bazungas, working her butt off, to keep, the rent together and the utilities and gas in the car. And it was mostly like I was like the Uber driver because I had to drive her everywhere because she didn't have a license yet. And I wanted her to get her license in Florida. I did not want her to get a license in Bama. And so, and that was because of my ex husband and all those other people. And I felt it was safer for her to not be registered in that state with a driver's license to jump to Florida and get one here. That way, they couldn't find her because they got no cronies in the city and all that they can pay off to find out info. You know what I mean? And I was always funny about any internet stuff. Like I always told her, don't put your real name on Facebook or any of that. Don't put an address. Don't tell people where you're at. That's how your house gets robbed. All that kind of stuff. So anyway, she's really basically a good girl. She's pretty tidy about the house and the car and I raised her to be a working individual to understand that if you work you got money. She opted into when she got one job she opted in to help out start paying the electric. I was like, why? It's just because I want to help. I was like, oh. And I mean she was great. But this particular house, the landlord would not put her on the lease. And she's like, I am not. When I rented it, she was a minor. And she says, I'm not putting her on lease. I said, but I want her on the lease. Because every other place I had, she was on the lease. From storages to, rentals to just, I mean, everything. She was on there. In the event that I died, she wouldn't have any trouble taking over everything. And she knew, all my bank info and everything. And I told her, I said, man, if I die, freaking cash that crap out before my body's cold, Jack. Take it and run because the government will hold it and you'll never get it, you know. And I never wanted her to be put out of the house if I died, you know, because I wanted her name in there, you know. And so it didn't work out like that. Um, the phone she had was listed under my business, which I was really funny about that. I caught her doing some kooky stuff on it at one point, and I said, I'll tell your daddy. Um, and I was real concerned because it reflects my business name. So you can't be doing weird stuff on the phone that is under my business name. And, because it might get me in some legal trouble, some of the stuff she was doing. Um, and she was pretty good. So, um, uh, the rent was due $1,000. The electric was due like $100. I think the water was like 30 or 40. And we were waiting on her paycheck to pay some bills. It's supposed to come like Thursday or something. She was saying, "Oh, it's not today, it's tomorrow. It's not today, it's tomorrow." And so uh, I was up like 6 in the morning. I was at my desk on the main floor of the house, and I had so much trouble going upstairs. I would stop going upstairs. I would stay downstairs, and a lot of times she'd stay right with me. And she's just a cuddly little thing. And so anyway, um, she came down the stairs and kind of creeped around, and she said, "Oh, I didn't know you were awake." And I said, "Well, yeah." And I was working on the computer, listening to stuff on the Etsy and stuff. And because it's the only thing I think of, during the pandemic, was maybe try to sell some stuff online, which actually was really hot at that time. That was the time to be listing stuff online, buddy. And because so much stuff was closed and stuff. And so anyway, I wished I'd have known better. I was trying to make face masks, and I started making a government approved hand sanitizer, and we worked on that and got that going real good. We gave away a lot of it to help people, and the rest we were selling it like hotcakes. And so anyway, she'd come down the stairs real early. She's like, "Oh, I didn't know you were awake." And I was like, "Yeah." And so she oh goody, the sheriff's around. There's a creepy dude today. So she said, "I'm going to take out the trash," and it was like 31 degrees or something. It was really cold, and we don't do cold. We hate the cold. And I said, "Don't worry about it." She says, "Well, I'm just going to take this out." I said, "Well, there's no reason to. It's too cold. I wouldn't bother." So then she goes out the door and doesn't come back. Now that really scared me because she was telling me some story the day before of how somebody was smoking weed out by the dumpster, and it was like, no way, you know. And so that scared me. It's like, man, if there's people creeping around, she's really beautiful, and that would freak me out if something happened to her. And she's not stupid. I just couldn't understand why she was so intent to want to take the trash out in the morning like that. And we take the trash out all the time. We don't leave trash in the house because it brings bugs and everything else. I mean, it's like nothing major there. So anyway, I start freaking out. I'm walking around the building. I'm going to the trash, and I asked a couple of neighbors, "Have you seen her?" Nope. And I'm like, what is going on? Can't get a hold of her. Text, call, text, call. So I I started getting really scared. I said, "My God, somebody has kidnapped her, you know, and she's in danger." And this is just really scary because, I mean, she's not flaky like that. I always took her everywhere, or if she wanted to go to the store or whatever, she did that, or if she was, I mean, I took her back and forth to work all the time, no matter what time it was. Um, and so it was really strange. So she, about 7, 8 hours later, well, I went down, I went, the sheriffs won't do anything. She was like 19 or 20. So the sheriffs won't do anything after they're 18. They're like, "Oh, well. And it's like, you don't understand. This is my best friend, my buddy, my pal, the love of my life, you know, and she's just disappeared since early this morning." And so anyway, I'm driving the streets, and I'm driving up down the streets. Talk to some of my other neighbors. I'm like, Pip has disappeared, and so then I went down to her work at the gas station, and the guy that maintains the pumps and everything was out there. Who's always been real nice to us and stuff. He was a doll, and I said, "Have you seen my daughter?" And he said, "Well, there's people on the streets all around here." And I was like, "What is that supposed to mean?" It was like really strange. So I went in the store. I knew her manager because I had to be there to approve her to get the job because she was underage. You have to like go to the interview and all that kind of crap, when they're underage. And so, uh, I, I thought the world of her boss. And so I said, "Have you seen my daughter? Does she work today?" She said, "No, she's not scheduled today, but she was here, but I wouldn't let her work." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, she just disappeared." and I'm kind of scared. And I said I can't get a hold of her on her phone. I've called, I've texted, I've called. It's like really scary. So she says, well, she was out back at the dumpster. Now, this place had a lot of homeless that would hang out begging in the front of the building. And the back is like a dead alley, one way, with a dumpster in the back. I mean, it's just like, there's like no people watching or walking around there or anything, you know what I mean? So that's really scary. Why would she be at the dumpster? Okay. And that doesn't even make any sense because I didn't think she was like on drugs or anything weird. It's just real strange. I can't imagine her hanging out at the dumpster behind the gas station. That's just really strange. So I'm like, So now I'm thinking, well, maybe it broke her heart that her boss wouldn't let her work because she intended on working and she thought she failed or something, and she just didn't even want to tell me or whatever or something. I don't know. And see, that day we were supposed to go get money from her paycheck to pay some bills. Well, I didn't care about that so much. I was worried about her. I mean, really worried. You know, it was a really beautiful girl. And so, anyway, uh, I'm driving up and down driving up and down streets, checking the house, driving up and down the streets, calling, texting, calling, texting. About 7.5, 8 hours later, there's this big long text message comes through my phone. It says something to the effect of, "I'm a big girl now, and I don't want any of my stuff. You can have it all." And blah 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 blah. Now, first of all, I know she didn't write that because she is dyslexic. She could never write all of that. Okay, so I know where that came from. And so anyway, that means somebody had to come get her. I had called her dad. Her dad screaming at me on the phone, going, "After what you did to her." I said, "And I did what?" And he hung up the phone. I'm like, what the hell? I called a couple other people. I said, "Hey, no, you heard from her." No. They tried to call her and everything. No answer. I said, "Man, this is really weird." And then when I get that big message, it's like I'm calling people going, "You'll never believe this strange message that I know she didn't write." And so anyway, you know, uh, I finally get through to her dad, and I said, "Look, I am really worried about her." He's like, "I have already talked to her." And, after what you did to her, I'm like, "After what I did, what?" I said, "She went to take the trash out in the cold for no reason. And like, I checked her room, and like, all she had was probably the phone, the keys to the car in the house, and then her uniforms for work. That's it." That's just really strange. So anyway, uh, it was pretty horrible. And so for about 3 or 4 days, I'd go back and check at her work. I'd call people day and night. Didn't understand what was going on, and was really worried. And I'd even called down to my friend Cherie down in NOLA. We used to go down and see her every month, and we'd go down there to work and stuff, and have a blast down there, and do, you know, crawfish, boil all the whole cool stuff. Go to the casino on the way and on the way back, and get free sweets and stuff. It's really cool. And so anyway, um, it was just really strange. And but again, she's over 18. She could do what she wants by law, but you know, When I left home at 15 and a half because I thought I was a big girl. I thought my daddy was an idiot piece of junk, that I could do so much better without him. And I was just too overgrown, you know what I mean? After I left my mom, I was already grown up to me, okay, at 12. And then, got to live with my dad a few years, and it was like, well, I know more than this cat. You know, I can do more because the main reason I left is because he promised me a car and an education, a formal education. And when it come to the car point, that wasn't happening. And I'm like, well, the hell with this. I'll go out and get my own car because I know how to work. So anyway, uh, it was really something. Anyway, uh, hey, you know, I left a note when I moved out, and I only took what belonged to me, and I left it nice. And I had some friends that had, come got me, and that my dad knew and everything, which I spent most of the time staying overnight at their house for like a year at a time. I didn't want to go home. Like, okay, I'm staying at their house tonight. Um, and those people taught me how to drive and legally and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, I learned how to fold towels the right way, and how to cook and make preserves and candles and all kinds of stuff. And I learned a lot. And then eventually I got out of that. I got tired of that mess and went on my own. But, and then I had a family that raised me and taught me how to be streetwise and street tough. So then, uh, anyway, so, you know, I just, um, I just thought it was really strange because, I mean, there was like no argument, no problem, no fight, no nothing going on. She changed a little bit for like the last 3 or 4 months before she had left. I wasn't happy about that because that was not her. Um, yeah, maybe it's possible she was on drugs or drinking. Who knows? I'm hoping not. And I'm kind of thinking not because it just wasn't her style. She's a good girl, good clean cut business person, great with people. Um, I mean, really, you know, really, I've raised her really good. Okay. If I died tomorrow, she could handle the world. Not a problem. I wouldn't have to worry for nothing, you know? So, um, it was just really strange. So then she would call me, and she would call me, and it'd be like, 10 or 11 at night. And then she'd talk like all the way to nearly daylight. So the little bit of time that I would get to go into work when we were trying to start the business back up in the pandemic, I get 1 or 2 shifts we try to run and hope that they don't shut us down. And because the business was going broke, sitting dormant, you know, and so and I needed to work. Um, so she would call me, and this is like 3 or 4 times a week, and it would be like 10 or 11 till like nearly daylight, and then I had to go to work in a couple hours. But we would talk all night about just whatever, just like we were kids, like when you were a kid and you just talk to people for hours on the phone, just about whatever. I mean, she just talk, and it broke my heart because I didn't want to say anything to make her feel like she wasn't a big girl. Okay. Like, oh, you should come home or you should do this. I just left it open because I figured, she's a pretty smart cat. I wanted her to feel successful in anything she's done. And if she felt it was time to move out, then that's her business. I just find it odd because, I had plans to, when she got ready to get a place or something, I wanted to, you know, empty a bunch of stuff out of the house and decorate it, help her get her utilities started and stuff, and you know, help her, move on, if that's what she wished to do. So, although hell no, I would never want to give her up because she was a blast, and that's my buddy. And so anyway, um, she would call me, several times a week, real late, and go till morning. And it just was horrible for me because, again, I had to be to work. And then she would call me for rides. And of course, I run and jump. She had no car, and I'd rather she's not walking the street or whatever. Um, she left her skateboard. I got to give her that back. I had ordered special wheels and bearings and all that stuff so she could have a skateboard, so I could teach her how to ride a skateboard. She had a scooter thing that I'd put all the lights on, everything in that, and in case she wanted to go over to the grocery store when it was nightfall so she wouldn't get a ticket and all that. And I dolled that all up with all kinds of cool stuff for her. And it was really neat. And she kind of liked that. And then I got one, and God, I couldn't stand riding that sucker. Man, it was terrible. And she loved hers. I'm like, man, I don't know how you like this thing. And so, anyway, I rode mine like once. I'm like, I hate this. I'd rather walk. So anyway, I was an old skateboarder from way back, and bicycle rider, and roller skater. That damn scooter thing is for the birds. So anyway, uh, she would call me for rides, and that would be 2 to 4 times a week. And I'd say, sure. And it might be in the morning, it might be in the afternoon. And she'd say, hey, could you come get me at my hotel? Okay. So she was at a hotel down by the Lobster House on 98. And the reviews are absolutely hideous online. Okay. I've never stayed over there, but if you drive around the back of it at night, it's really bad news. Okay. It looks like Dope Alley with all the gangsters and everything back there. This is not where my kid needs to be. Okay. So, and it was right before the transition of spring break, where the hotels get higher by the minute, and they'll get as high as like 300 a day. So anyway, so she was paying by the week again. So I don't know where all the money come from, unless she was hiding it from her pay or who was paying for all that. But anyway, so she was staying at that place. She called me to come get her. I said sure. So she comes to the car, sees my car, puts some stuff in the car, says I'll be right back. Goes back in, gets some more stuff, throws it in the car, and uh, she says, I had to get out of there. And I said, really? She says, yeah. She said, the maid come into my room. Like she had the door open or something, which is real strange. She knows better than all that. And she claimed the maid come into the room and draw a line of Coke on the dresser and said, here, you want some? I said, the maid did what? And I was like, don't take drugs from anybody. You don't know if it's poison or what. I said, and two, why on earth is maid coming in your room drawing a line of Coke out on the dresser? That's just not even right. Okay? This is an employee of the hotel. I would report it if I were you. That's really creepy. And so then she was telling me that the maid and her boyfriend or son were going in people's cars in the parking lot and ripping them off, taking stuff out of people's cars. Because she had some shoes and an outfit. And remember, she didn't take any of her clothes when she left. All she took was her uniforms. Okay? And all the time I'm like, will you come get your stuff? I mean, if you're moving out, take all your stuff, and you need clothes anyway. And she's like, no, I don't need anything, don't need anything. Well, she claimed that this maid gave her these new shoes and this outfit, which was real cute. I'm like, oh, that stuff's really cute. She's, yeah, that they stole it out of somebody's car. It was, renting at the hotel. I'm like, don't associate with people like this. And, you don't want to associate with people like that because then you're going to get drug into some legal problems. And so, anyway, uh, she wanted me to take her to this other hotel that was over by, it was on the same highway, over by Thai Spice. I think it was Thai Spice, the restaurant, and I think Pizza Hut. And that hotel's crappy. I tried to rent there years ago when I came in town to work, and I went to go rent a room for a day, and they had this big sign, billboard sign about no hookers, no drugs, no this, no that, no guests, no nothing. And I'm like, what the heck? And I said, what kind of hotel is this? This is even safe? This is the strangest thing I've ever seen. And at that time, the rate was like 45. That was several years ago. And it was just kind of a turnoff. They weren't very nice at the desk, and it was just strange. And it makes you wonder when people have big, long signs like that because maybe there's just entirely too much going on. You know what I mean? I don't want to be around it. I have to be safe. My car has to be safe. My running stock has to be safe when I'm on the road working. So I don't do that. So I never did rent there. Well, anyway, she has me drive her over there, and I said, man, this is a crappy place. I said, I don't know. And she said, no, it's fine. And she's like, they give me a deal. And I'm like, well, I don't know what kind of deal you're talking about. And so she had to pay them, she said $700, and she showed me a receipt. And that's like for a week. The rent at the house was $1,000 a month. And I'm sitting there going, dude, like, she's going to spend like her entire paycheck to be in a hotel by the week. And it's getting to be almost spring break. And it's going to get really expensive. And I told her, man, it's a lot of money for a week. And she's like, well, she went up there and paid for it, come back in the car, had the receipt and everything. I could not believe she paid $700. So, then there's word that she so-called has a boyfriend. I had about 3 phone calls from different people. She's got a boyfriend. I'm like, really? I said, I hope not, because she's not on nothing. And she wasn't at the time because I was having trouble with the state of Florida because she was a little overweight. And they said, the next time she come in, they weren't going to give her any shot unless she dropped about 10, 15 pounds. And that, they will prosecute you as a parent, if your kid's overweight. But see, at this point in time, she was like 19 or 20 when she split, okay? But anyway, so she took her stuff upstairs and all that, and then, she had told me she had a boyfriend or a friend at work, which I knew this guy. He was always very nice to me when I come in the store. Clean cut looking dude, like Superman, hair combed back, glasses, tall, pretty thin, but very soft spoken, very nice. And looks like he's about 20, but he wasn't. He's like 31, something like that. So, she was like, he's my friend, Well, then she's like telling me this big long story. She did this like 3 times about this guy's background legally. and about his girlfriend. She said his girlfriend and stuff, and it's kind of a big long story, and it's not good. Um, his dream job was to be a cop, which I guess he was a cop at the time, and then he lost his job because of his actions, charges, whatever. Who knows? And you know, there's always three sides to a story. But again, it's not my problem. But she had come to me about it and was telling me, you know, he's my friend. And I said, well, that's nice. I said, but I don't think I would let it go any further because um, I just don't think it'd be a good future for you because people are going to come after you. They're going to come after him. Wherever you go, it's going to be a problem. And he can never get rid of the charges, even though they were several years ago when he was 21. So I said, but you know, you don't know. I would be his friend because maybe he doesn't have a friend in the world because of that history. But I would be kind to him and be his friend. But I wouldn't let it go any further than that. And she was like, okay. And so, but now again, it's not my business because she's of age and it's her life. I can't control that. And when I talk to you, I like to make you think. I'm not here to give orders. I'm here to make you think. So then she calls me another day. She says, I need you to pick me up. Okay. I have to take her down to the Publix grocery store on 98 by Brooks Bridge. Parked right in front. Watched her go in. She came back out. And she didn't have any groceries. She just brought a cold cappuccino because we used to get them really dirt cheap, like $2.50 out of the machine at the door. I think they loaded them in the wrong spot, and so we used to get them really cheap over there. She gave them for her, for me, and she had that and handed it to me. Got in the car. I was like, well, this is strange. She went in the grocery store and didn't bring any groceries. So obviously that's something like we're picking up money or we're cashing a check of some sort. You know, that's what that tells me. Or maybe she was applying for a job and dropping in. I don't know. She just said she had to go to the store. So, you know, anyway, then I had to drop her off at that hotel again. And then she called me one day and she said, do you have anything to eat? And I said, there's a ton of food here. And I said, you know, um, what's up? She says, well, I thought maybe you'd cook something. I said, no, you left. I'm not cooking one thing by myself, you know, because I used to make all kinds of stuff. I made food in the morning so that she could take it to work with her and eat good food, okay? And she could just heat it up at work. And most of the time she was ordering DoorDash, I found out. But, you know, I cooked everything in bulk so that we could freeze it or whatever, and then she could take stuff for lunch. So she's imagining that I'm cooking every day and she's not present, right? Cook for what? For me? Um, so I said, no, I didn't cook anything. You're not here. And she said, well, I'm hungry. That hurt. Okay, that hurt. So I said, well, what can I do? I said, there's plenty of food here. Do you want something? And she says, yeah, will you bring it to my hotel? I said, sure. I said, you know, I said, look, I'll give you half of everything in the house. You know, she says, well, I don't really have anything to eat. I don't have any money. And I said, well, hell. I said, you know, I'll be over there in a little bit. She's like, okay. And she sounded really down. So I I was like, I had told her, I said, you got a little fridge there? Yeah. You got a little freezer? Yeah. I said, you have a way to cook or anything? She's like, yeah, I got a stove. I said, cool. So, I brought a pan, brought some containers. I brought some stuff out of the freezer, some fresh food, some drinks, and bought her a little bit of clothes and some shampoo and stuff. And so I had like 3 bags of crap that was really heavy. So I called her. I said, I'm at your hotel. She told me she was at this new hotel. She was staying up by a pharmacy, kind of like on the Y of the street there, up by a pharmacy on Eglin Parkway. And it was one of those weekly, monthly stay hotels with kitchens and all that stuff. And you thought it was real nice till you went in the front door. Oh, mother of God, it was like something right out of downtown LA on friggin' Hope Street. Oh, Jesus almighty. That was so scary. Um, she came down and had 3 bags of stuff that was really, really heavy. And, especially like with the frozen stuff and that. And I'm like, I got all this stuff. And she's like, okay. She like grabs one bag. I'm carrying all the rest and all this other stuff. And so, as at first she wanted me to bring it up to the room. I'm like, no, not happening. So anyway, we come in the front door of this hotel, and that person running the front desk just is some chick that looks really rough. And I'm like, this is really creepy. And then we go down the hallway a little bit. We turn to go to a elevator, and you're smelling all kinds of drugs. Okay, all kinds of drugs in the air, from like smoking crack to weed to I don't know what. And I'm like, oh, mother of God. We get in the elevator. It reeks terrible of weed. Holy Jesus. And we go up floor 2, and she goes down the hallway, and oh my God. The hallway was just livid with dope. I mean, just like, you need a gas mask. It was so bad. Seriously. Seriously. I could not believe this hotel was in business, because that is just unreal. Plus, I don't want to be breathing any drugs. And she shouldn't either, because if you get drug tested to work, it's all over with. So she goes to open the door. We go in there in a little room. It was clean. All she had was a little duffel bag on the floor with like, a pair of shoes, a shirt, and that was about it. I said, where's, your stuff? And she's like, that's all I have. And I said, well, you need clothes. When you got all that stuff at the house, if you want it, you're welcome to it. And she's like, no, I don't want to carry a lot of stuff. That sounded really weird, okay? It sounded like we're bebopping from hotel to hotel or something. That sounded really strange. So, um, I showed her all the stuff, that I just brought her, stuff that I had frozen that I made before, like full soup and different things, and a stew thing that I had made, and, some Cajun food, whatever. And she was just thrilled to bits. And she said, I'm going to cook some right now. I said, that's wonderful. So she goes to cook some stuff up, and she gives me some, she gets some, and I eat it. And then she's like, will you stay and watch a movie with me? I'm like, well, okay. I said, but I don't like breathing all these drugs. It's like coming into your room. This is not good. I said, and it scares me. And you can see the dope man coming in and out of this hotel and stuff. Constant. With out-of-state cars in the parking lot, running, having drug runners running in and out. Okay. And I said, this is not safe. You could get shot in here. I said, and that smelling the drugs. She's like, it'll be okay. I said, it is Definitely not safe. And she claimed that she was only paying $600 a week there, but the sign read different. Okay, the sign was like talking like it was like 800 something a week because they were going into spring break. So, um, it destroyed me, man. It broke my freaking heart. So she cooked us up food and she wanted me to stay and watch a movie with her and cuddled up with me on her little bed. And uh, I felt so bad for her. God, I felt so bad. And I fell asleep. I was just exhausted. I fell asleep. And and then I woke up and went, whoa, and she's like, it's all right, mommy. And so I said, well, I guess I probably better go because I got to work, tomorrow. And I said, what else can I do for you? And she's like, well, I would like to go get Coke or something. I said, okay, let's go. She come with me down to the car. We rode. I think we went to the CVS drugstore that was next door. We drove over there. And she went in and got me a drink, got her a drink, and we sat in the car and talked for about 2 hours. I said, I really hate for you to go back in that hotel. It's not good. It's not a good place for you to be. It's dangerous. And I said, these hotels are going to get higher and higher. And she's like, it's okay. I said, and when you can't eat, you call me because you were hungry. That breaks my heart. I'm not going to let you be hungry. So she's like, it's okay. I said, she's like really desperate. The next day she calls me, she needs a ride. I think it was a ride to work. Because she was a ways away from work. So, and I told her, I'll bring your scooter if you want. No, I don't need it. And it's like, surely she's not going to walk, a few miles to work. So, because obviously her so-called friends were not giving her rides like they promised because she was complaining about that too. Her big buddies, were bailing on her. So, I tried to tell her, not everybody's a real friend, and you can't always depend on people. The only one you can depend on is you. Got to look out for number one. So, she contacted me the next day. I need a ride. I said, okay. I went to go get her. And it was like, I don't know, 11, 12, 1, something. Went up there. I didn't want to go up in that hotel or the room. I just pulled up out front, and I'm watching the dope men running in and out. And it's freaking me out. All out of state tags. Bama, And it's like, dude, they're only here to work. And it was really something. And so we went by the house, I think, to get something for her. And I said, look, let's go over to the house. She was like, I needed something or whatever. And she ran upstairs, come back down, and she was going after something. And which was a coin collection that a best friend of mine gave her. And I had found it in her room. And I had laid it somewhere, and she saw it right away. Grabbed that, I guess. And then she asked for a couple other things that belonged to me, and I said, no. And I said, but I got all these boxes in the hallway if you want to take them with you. Oh, no, not right now. Okay. And so then we were in the car, and we went somewhere, and we were sitting in the parking lot talking, as usual. She's discussing this dude again, and this story, how it changed. Like, there was 3 different occasions she brought this dude and his legal history up, talking to me about it. And I'm just like sitting there listening to this. And, again, I said, I just wouldn't go any further than that. I would just be his friend and be respectful because he probably has no friends in the world. And so, by then I had researched a lot of stuff on the internet. And I researched, girls that were married to guys like this, or just a girlfriend, and how it was affecting their life. From people screaming at them, going to the mailbox, from people trashing their cars. They literally had to, when they get up in the morning, they had to walk around the whole car before they got in. From uh, people driving by throwing bricks through the window, screaming at them when they go get their mail. They would have to move. It got so bad. From sheriffs harassing because they didn't like the person because of their record. And they also didn't like the girl that was hanging out with them because they figured they were sorry. And it was just heartbreaking. I'm like, God, my kid could not go through this. This would just destroy her. She's too frail for all that. But again, she's over 18. It's her business. So, I can't say, you don't do that or do that because it's not my right. I don't have the right to do that. But if you ask me my opinion, I'll tell you. I don't think it's going to be good. I don't see a future in it. So, anyway, I sure as hell wouldn't want her to live in fear. Anyway, I told her she was really kind of down and out. And money was getting tough because the hotels were getting really high. It was opening of spring break. And it was like, whoever's footing that bill, and she couldn't work enough. There's no way she could work enough to foot that at all. There's just no possible way. And, I told her, I said, look, if you want to get an apartment, you get an apartment, I'll help you with it, I'll sign for it, whatever you want to do. And if you want, rent me a room. It doesn't make a difference. Because I'll be moving from here soon. And because, any minute they're going to be finished. And I'm sure, we'll have to move out. So anyway, which actually I ended up holding on to the house for another about 6 months. And then I got like a 5-day notice to move. It was some bull crap. And then I got the best lawyer. I was blessed with the best lawyer in the state of Florida out of Tallahassee. I thank that lawyer. And he's occasionally on my YouTube. And so I told her, I said, look, you're wasting money. You're chasing money. You want to get a place. You need to save money to get a place, not throw it away at hotels by the week. And I said, you're welcome to come back to the house, but because you left and left me with all the bills, that was very disrespectful. I said, you will need to pay, like half the rent up front. Just the rent, not the utilities, anything else. Just like half the rent up front. And you can come back to the house. But I'm not doing anybody in the house. No boyfriends, no nobody. It's not happening. Anything like that will have to be outside of the house. And she's like thinking. She's sitting in the seat thinking. I said, I just want to let you know. I know you're a big girl. But if you decide this is what you'd wish to do, I think it would work out nicely because
Hello, Moto.
You could get money together and get a place. I help you set it up and everything and make a good transition because you got to do it right because it's going to be in your name and you don't want to ruin that. So you can't rent from anywhere else. And I said, and this guy, if he's not on the lease, you got to be very careful because they know his car, his license plate, him, everything. It's all over, and you'll lose your place to live. It's a very critical situation because of his background. So be careful. Just like in the hotels, I said, you start giving away hotel keys, they're going to throw you out. Because if they run a make on this guy's car or whatever, It's all over. It's whether you're guilty or not guilty. The problem is this guy went to court and he took the plea as guilty. Me, I'd be sporting that orange red suit before I'd ever say I was guilty. I got news. Never would I admit to a crime that I did not do. Okay, see what I'm saying? So, I just left it at that. I said, it's your choice, but I think it would be better if you came back, saved money, and I hope you find a place, you know, and get you started, you know, because this is ridiculous money you're spending. The house was $1,000 a month, and you're spending like $4,000 a month playing with these hotels as they go up every week. And I said, you don't make that kind of money. And I said, is this guy helping you? She's like, oh, no. I said, I said, well, if he's the one that convinced you to leave, I'm surprised he wasn't paying the bill 100% because it's not fair to you. Okay? Oh, no, I would never take his money. And she's a big girl. Let's remember she is over 18. Okay? So, and I didn't want to make her feel like a puss, like she's a failure or anything like that. You know, I want her to feel like she's like a big girl, okay? Because that's the way I raised her. You know, I'm not going to give her orders because it's not my business. So, anyway, you know, as time goes on, she ends up getting a place. She borrows a bunch of money from a friend of mine and turns around and buys the newest PS5, whatever it is, and a high dollar phone and everything else. Claimed the guy bought it, and that wasn't true. Somebody else told me exactly what happened, and she was saying it was that she needed the money so she could rent her place. So a friend of mine sends her $1,000, and they told me about it later. Well, I felt sorry. I said, "What does it take to get the place?" And she was like $1,000, and this person sent it to her. They wired it, which is probably the day that she asked me to take her to the grocery store. Okay, I'm guessing. I'm just guessing. So, in the meantime, you know, she had put this app on my phone so that they could do this call. It's like a FaceTime call, like live, and she would call me, and sometimes we'd talk for an hour or 2 hours on FaceTime live to each other, and like you know, while I was working, you know, when I was doing work at the storages and stuff, and we'd just sit there and talk. It was just real nice and casual. And sometimes she might be putting her face on or something, and doing her hair, you know, and um, so we would talk just about whatever. And then one time she said, "You have to accept him." I said, "Do what?" "You have to accept him." I said, "Let me explain something to you in your own ghetto little way. He ain't my." And she was like, and I said, "You are over 18. It's your life. It's your pee. It's your business. I don't have to accept nothing." I said, "You know, the guy was a nice guy, you know, when I was doing business with him at your work and not even knowing that this was supposedly your boyfriend. And and I said, look, you know, we don't know what's true, false, or whatever, period. Dude took the plea, doesn't look good. Now he's ruined for life. Trust me, it's a really sad situation. You know, it's really sad. I mean, this guy is in bad shape for the rest of his life, even in general public. Okay. He was ruined from jobs to all kinds of stuff because of his background. But not my problem, okay? She's of age. It's her business, not mine. But she's telling me, you have to accept him. Just out of the blue. I was like, no. And so I said, you tell your father about his background. No, I said, you probably better not. Because your father has arrested somebody like that years ago. And they're like, not around today. You better not tell him about this. And yeah. So it's pretty messy all the way around. But again, she's over 18. Nothing you can do, nothing you can say, really. At least not where I figure, okay? And so it's really a sad situation. And it gets worse as it goes along. Yeah. And it rips your heart out, rips your guts out. Because I just am not going to be the one to go, you can't do this, da, 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 because that's not fair. She thinks she's a big grown up girl. Great. I don't want her to think anything less than that. And it's her life, it's her choice what she does. Whatever she does, whether it be legal, illegal, whatever it is, like she made the statement, I guess I'll have to learn. It's like, to me, I'm sitting there thinking, like, there's nothing to learn. If somebody's telling you it's probably not a good idea, and the reasons why, how it affects your future, maybe you should consider thinking about that. you know, you know, um, can't give her orders. She's of age. I'm not going to. I want her to be a grown-up girl. Okay, I don't want to make her feel like a failure. She's a really smart cat. This kid is excellent in business, great with people, hard worker, just incredible. And she was happy-go-lucky, would dance on a on a on a on a on on a whim. Just really neat. Just really cool person. Dressed neat. Really liked neat stuff. We had a lot of the same tastes. Um, it was great to take places and stuff. Except for those last like 3 or 4 months, she had this weird change where she just turned into some of that junk she was working with. You know, like those chicks from Atlanta or whatever. I mean, she just really changed. It was weird. Because it just wasn't her. A lot of times when you're exposed to stuff, you kind of try to become that or you admire that or something, and instead of be yourself because it's supposed to be cool or something. I don't know. So maybe she was going through that. I don't know. But anyway, so it got to be quite interesting. And so that was like I think the last conversation we had. It was like 2 hours long, and then she come off with that. You have to accept him. He's not my problem. He's not my boyfriend. He's her thing. That has nothing to do with me. Okay. I can't stop it. I can't change it. There's nothing I can do. It's her life. And it's just the way it is. I mean, other parents are like, man, I would have done this. I would have said that. Or no, not me. I raised her to be a person, not conjoined to me like twins. Okay, she's supposed to like grow up, have a life, whether it's with me or whatever else. But if she, wants to date somebody or be gay or whatever she'd like to do, or drive a purple Cadillac, or have a bright yellow VW, or you know, shave her head, that's all her business. It's her choice. It's life. Okay. So yeah, and then it starts getting very interesting after this. There's a reason I'm putting this on the internet. I've hesitated for a great many years to put this on the internet because I'm not into putting personal drama on the internet, okay? Because I have been very negatively affected by a lot of personal drama that was lies on the internet for several years here, which is highly illegal the way it's been done. But there's lots of records, so it'll work. I got the proof, proof's in the pudding, from videos to everything else. Witnesses, you name it. But anyway, so I was just hoping I would never have to use that. So anyway, um, it kind of went downhill from there. And then I also found out she was into witchcraft. That's not a good hobby. That stuff will backfire on you. So it gets more interesting as we go along. So I'll catch you guys on the next one. But now you know, I've had a lot of people ask me and wonder what's happened. I'm not saying my kid's a bad kid. I'm not saying that she's wrong or anything else. Um, I guess everybody grows up and, you know, they do their thing. Yeah, I miss her. I probably always will, but then again, I don't because of what has transpired since that last call. So I am forced to put this on the internet in the event something happens to me because it gets worse and worse. Um, so I will see you guys in the next one. I love you. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for the thumbs up, everybody. And whatever you do, be kind to a stranger. Hug your babies. And love everybody. And too much of a good thing is wonderful. See you in the next one.